Hello and welcome to Margate Beach in Kent, and the David Icke Connector video cast looking out towards the European mainland across the channel. Real appropriate place to be at the moment. I'm going to be speaking here on Saturday and then finishing the UK tour off in the Isle of Wight on December the 14th. And in that period, of course, it's all going to be about Brexit in the UK. And I do understand why people are getting fed up with Brexit. Oh, it's Brexit this, it's Brexit that. It seems to be going on for so long. And some people saying, oh, I wish we hadn't voted to come out now. Yeah, I can understand all that. But, I mean, let's take a deep breath here. And let's just look at the context in which this is all happening, in which we are being offered a no Brexit, fake Brexit, by the Prime Minister Theresa May, which is soon to be voted on. And while the content of that is no Brexit at all, certainly not the one that the people in the referendum voted for, others who've been in the background all along, who have absolute contempt for democracy and the desires of those who voted for Brexit, they are using this situation now to angle, as they have been from the start, for another referendum or even no Brexit at all. And about an hour after the referendum vote was announced, I put on the internet, obviously this is great, but also this is just the start, because they ain't gonna go quietly. And there's a number of reasons for that, and there's a number of reasons, they are the same reasons, why so much chaos has ensued, so much blocking by the bureaucrats in Brussels, so much delay, so much creating a situation where the negotiations are taking time and going nowhere for a long time. And have now reached this point where they've got somewhere, but it's not Brexit. And those reasons are that the European Union can be charted back at least to the 1920s, as I've done in my books. And an organisation called the Pan-Europa Movement, which was an operation for the Habsburg dynasty, which locks into all these other dynasties. You know, all these people that care about humanity and freedom and things like that. And step by step, through what I call the totalitarian tiptoe, step by step by step, claiming that each step is not connected to all the other steps when it is, we have moved from what was first sold as a free trade area, good for jobs, mate, to a centralised superstate, which is not where it's meant to end now. This is where it is now. Where it's meant to end is with a centralised control, bureaucratic control of Europe, and eventually the end of countries, with Europe broken up and countries of Europe broken up into regions. And the idea has been all along to absorb more and more countries into the European Union. That's what's been happening. The reason, one of the reasons, there were many, that suddenly out of nowhere under Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet Union broke up. And I said at the time it happened. This is about creating a situation where you absorb the countries of the former Soviet Union into NATO and you absorb them into the European Union. And that's exactly what's happening and has happened. And they want more. So given that ambition, the last thing they want is for any country to leave, let alone the United Kingdom. And so when they had an absolute shock with the referendum, that people actually did not buy Project Fear, they'd had enough. They'd had enough of being ignored. The urban working class, for instance, of the cities had had enough of being ignored. Enough of being a gimme vote for the Labour Party, so they never got given anything. All the gimmies were for people they had to get on board beyond the natural urban working class to get elected. This is what happens when you become a gimme vote. You get nothing, you're taken for granted. And the referendum offered an opportunity for those people to say, well, we don't have to vote for a political party here that goes away and then does what it likes, even though it told us it would do something else. We've got a chance here of having a yes-no decision, and they took it. And the arrogance of the political class, both right, middle and left, was shocked because the great unwashed had actually spoken instead of being taken for granted. And people say, it's a shock. No, it wasn't a shock. Not if you talk to people outside the Westminster bubble, it wasn't a shock. And so, the people have spoken, they've given us the wrong result. What do? Well, because the political class and the web to which it attaches includes the bureaucrats in Brussels and the political class in Britain, they've been working together ever since, including the government administrators, who are part of this same political class, working ever since to undermine the Brexit vote. So at best, you stop Brexit altogether, and at worst, you dilute it so much it's not Brexit at all, which is where we are with Theresa May and this proposal at the moment, which just hands all the aces to the European Union. Indefinitely, potentially. So, let's look at some of the characters that are behind this stop the people's will of Brexit. Tony bloody Blair, a war criminal, a man who lied about weapons of mass destruction to justify an invasion of Iraq that has proved to be a humanitarian and social and human catastrophe. Anyone want to be on the same side as him? If he wants it, the web that controls him wants it. The same web that he was serving with Bush to lie about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq to justify that invasion, which has had absolutely catastrophic ongoing consequences as well for the people of Iraq and the wider Middle East. So Tony Blair wants it, so the elite want it, and he wants us to stay in the European Union. What do they say about knowing what side you're on by the people who are on the side with you? My God, if I'm on the side of Tony Blair on anything, then I've got some big rethinking to do. And then there's George Soros. George Soros is pumping hundreds of thousands of pounds into organisations pressing for Brexit to be stopped. George Soros has nothing to do with the United Kingdom. He's an American, a Hungarian American, nothing to do with the United Kingdom. And yet he is using his money, as he does to the tune of tens of billions of dollars, manipulating political situations and countries in North America, in Europe and further afield. He's using his money here to try to overturn the democratic vote of the British people in the referendum. So, anyone want to be on his side? Someone who has said publicly, I don't care about or look at the social consequences of what I do. I'm there to make money. But we have this situation now where if you mention George Soros, this multi-billionaire financier with a vast network in 100 countries, manipulating other people's affairs like he's trying to do with Brexit, you are an anti-Semite because he's Jewish. I don't care if he's Chinese. I'm interested in what he's doing, not what he is. But here we are. The left, much of the left, certainly the so-called progressive left, that's not left at all, if only, is standing arm in arm with people like Soros and people like Blair, web servants, elite servants of an elite agenda to stop the will of the people. And they call themselves anti-fascist. I do love the self-delusion and self-deceit. It's almost historic in its proportions. So all these forces have been at work to stop a genuine Brexit, the one that people voted for, because they don't want it. And the other key thing that they don't want is for the UK to smoothly leave the European Union, because then all these countries that have started to vote in greater and greater numbers for parties that are sceptical of the European Union, they don't want them to see a smooth UK Brexit, because that will encourage other countries in Europe to do the same and say, hold on a minute, we're being dictated to by dark suit bureaucrats we can't even name, at least one of whom is pissed by lunchtime. What are we doing, having our country externally controlled by these people? And who controls them? That's the next question, which can be answered. And so this chaos and upheaval that's going on is not by accident, but by design. They want it as chaotic as possible. They want Britain to have the worst deal as possible, to be put in the worst situation as possible. And there's people in Britain that are working towards that, in league with the bureaucrats in Brussels and those who control the bureaucrats in Brussels. And I do look at the Labour Party. We have a leader of the Labour Party in Jeremy Corbyn, who I have respect for in some areas, but he's spent most of his political career criticising the European Union, arguing against the European Union, and then goes through the referendum half-heartedly supporting it and supporting staying in. And now they're all in this game going on, playing politics with Brexit. And I ask this question. People talk about the new politics. Here's a new politics. How about people stand for what they believe in, irrespective of what their party believes or is pressured by whips to believe, but just stand for what you believe in as an individual. And this individual stands for what they believe in. Instead of thinking, I've got to bring the party with me, therefore I've got to stand for things I don't really stand for. This is the old politics, the tired politics, the whip politics, the we must think as a party politics, when we should be speaking and thinking as individuals, standing for what we believe in. The rest of the Labour Party, or much of it, certainly the Parliamentary Party, not the wider party probably, but the Parliamentary Party is against Brexit, and I'm the leader. Well, okay, fair enough, be against it. But I can't argue for something or against something that I don't believe in. So I'm going to follow how I feel. This would be the new politics, where when someone opened their mouth, you knew that what they were saying was what they actually believed. And This is what happens with the old politics. You get into a situation like this of utter chaos, where people are playing politics and saying what they think is politically expedient in the moment instead of doing what they really believe. And the Labour Party was created to represent the overwhelmingly urban working class that was being crushed and crucified by the elite. And now, so much of the Labour Party is the bloody elite. And they've shown that in the way they've played politics on Brexit. But it's the same with all of them. It's a mess because it's meant to be a mess. It's not meant to be simple. And the real goal is to stop it happening altogether. And we, the people, have to not accept that. You know what I'm seeing more and more and more is people saying in different situations, in different subjects, we are not having it anymore. We're not going to be dictated to by this political class anymore. And Brexit is a wonderful opportunity to say, we have spoken, we've had a democratic vote, this is how it's gone, and this is how it's going to go. And no cabal and politics playing political class in Westminster is going to stop it. And certainly no dark suit bureaucrats in Brussels who have no thought, no desire to make the UK a better place, but to make it more and more controlled by this central cabal that is the European Union. The people spoke, and we must not let them get away with anything less than delivering what the people spoke about. Brexit, meaning Brexit.